Hi, this is Heather Carlile, and we're talking about mental agility, which means I'm your coach for getting the gymnastics of using your mind more expanded and more agile. So, if you tuned in last week, or if you've looked at the materials from last week, we looked at patience. And patience is one of those virtues which most of us want more of, but then kind of just push it aside and don't really work on it. So I wanted to share with you, one of the things that I do to be creative is I paint angels. They're little angels. They're just fun. And so I take the affirmations from the Virtue Scrolls, which is the mental yoga of thinking, speaking, and behaving with virtue. And then I take the affirmations and put them on a bookmark. So here you go. This is from last week, patience. And so this is the feminine version. Patience is trusting that all things work out with perfect timing. I trust the natural timing of life processes. I trust the timing of my own growth process. As I grow, my fulfillment expands. I am patient with my advancement. I only need to manage today's lessons. I fill myself with calmness and serenity. I have all the time I need. I am most efficient when I am patient and calm. I enjoy the process of growth. I accept the natural process of change. Now, how does that sound? And there are a lot of things that we encounter every day, inside and in the environment and in other people, where it's not that way. I advocate that we have a choice, that we can run our own mind for that sort of view. When we can add, in essence, like if you were doing hatha yoga, if you add a new position, then you add another part of your physical agility. This is just adding a new position for your mind, deciding to be patient, and as we looked at it last week, accepting reality and assessing how things actually move and work in the reality of life on the planet Earth for us human beings. So, mental agility all comes under the headline in my mind for my motto, which is know yourself, treasure life, and love others. And that really is, we're here to love and be loved. The mental agility for using the virtues is a surefire method of living to love and be loved day to day. So today, our virtue of the 12 is charity. So I want to show you all 12. And notice, I want you to notice that charity in all of these is the one where we express love to others. Most of the mental agility involved with this kind of self-refinement, self-knowledge, treasure life, love others, is about knowing and mastering yourself. Charity is about loving others. So once we get all of the virtues, we get patient with others, we get courageous about doing the courageous things that require our own courage. That was our first virtue. Devotion to a cause, which is our own desire, our own commitment. Discernment, which is wisdom, connecting your head and your heart. Efficiency, which is treasuring the materials and the time that you have and not wasting anything. Forbearance, And that was our second one, where we stand strong and don't back off when we're pressed or threatened. Notice that, again, is our own development. Humility, again, our own development, how we view ourselves in the world. Kindliness is an attitude. So that's treasure life, love others, but it's not necessarily charitable. That's why we need both charity and kindliness. Patience, we've talked about that one. Precision, which means getting focused, using your executive function, and being efficient. Sincerity, which means not making fun of things and not making them small and not getting overbearing. Sincerity, authenticity, and tolerance, which is tolerance of a range of differences. So notice of all the 12 virtues, and this week is our fourth, charity is the one that's love others. The others help us to be a loving person, but the actual giving of it, the expression of it, is charity. So I wanted to share that with you and be very clear about it, partly because, in all honesty, I was thinking now, can I make a clear distinction between charity and kindliness? And yes, we can. So I wanted to show you that this is my website, and this is what it looks like right now, where we're playing the video live on my website. Then also the previous videos and the previous virtue scrolls, of course, are on my YouTube channel. So there's my YouTube channel with the live talks like this one, which is on charity this evening. And then I'll put up the charity scroll tomorrow. So I just wanted to remind you that that's always there on my YouTube channel and my website. All right, we're looking at charity today. And this is the charity bookmark. So if you go to my website, the downloads are there. They're free. And this mental agility course is my gift for us in times of stress and looking for how we handle ourselves with more grace, with more artfulness, with more self-mastery. I hope that it makes a difference for you. And when it does and how it does, I would love to hear from you. There are many, many people who have already used this program, and you can see some of their comments. They get excited when they do it. So, charity. Here are the affirmations. Charity is giving to others with love. I belong to the family of humanity. Everyone I meet is my friend. Now, you know that there's a caveat that goes with that. When people are murderous and when they are filled with evil thoughts and evil intentions, we cannot be friends with them, only with the soul that is underneath. And so we protect ourselves from those who are filled with that sort of negativity and evil. It is tragic and sad. I maintain composure in difficult situations. I don't put my upsetness, or I don't get upset about difficult situations. I know that it does no good, and it usually is something like a teenager who has not been safe in their lives, and then they get emotionally explosive or venting. So in difficult situations, as an adult, I know myself, and I respect all of life, which means I maintain composure, I am at ease, I am courteous and considerate. And I think that that's how those of us who have been continuously attached to goodness and devoted to goodness want to conduct ourselves with courtesy and consideration. My expectations of others are respectfully realistic. I always see the good in people, as I said before, even when we encounter someone who is a bully, who is mean, who is abandoning, who can't stay, who doesn't know self, doesn't treasure life, and doesn't love others in the way that they could. So in that sense, I always see the good in people, but sometimes it's not on the surface. I make it my job, I make it my intention to not be fooled by all of the exigencies and hardships on the planet Earth. It is a difficult life for most of us at some point, and for some of us most of the time. But if I have wisdom, if I have discernment, I can see underneath the surface, and I can go to the good in people, and therefore have some form of equanimity and peacefulness about that. Then it is my second nature to forgive. I don't hold on to things. I don't get resentful. I don't try to get payback. If they apologize, that's whether or not they can do it. But I don't want to carry that. And so I let it go. I forgive it and I let it go. I know people have bandwidth for certain things. And if I did something that was inappropriate, I hope that I've apologized. Sometimes it's hard to apologize and admit it. And sometimes it's hard to forgive. But it's not something we want to carry with us. It's too heavy, in addition to all the other things we have to carry. And if you have questions about that, I would be honored to hear any question you have, or quibble you have, or yes but you have. I love difficult questions. It's always fun to kind of walk through what I teach and what I know to find the way where I can show you how I am sure of what it is that I'm teaching and sharing. So it is my second nature to forgive. That's where I've come to. My friendship is gentle and respectful. And sometimes friends are not gentle and not respectful. And sometimes we can just let it go. And sometimes we need to find other friends. I express appreciation every day, and especially to my loved ones. If I haven't thanked Jack every day in 3 or 4 ways, then I'm not really paying attention to how wonderful he is. It must be not only noticed, but it must be expressed. I possess the true spirit of loving charity, which means generosity, wanting to give, wanting to serve. And the truth is, it's thrilling when we get to a place where we can give and we can serve. So I was thinking, of course, when I'm preparing a little talk like this, I want it to be accurate and I want it to be interesting because I want to be a good teacher. And so I'll think about a story that I know. And the foundation of this mental agility training, of the mental yoga, learning the virtuous thought, speaking, and behaving, it all starts with those of us who really believe in goodness, who really want to do the right thing, who really value good. Now, there are some people who are doubtful about that. There are some people who are hateful and they don't believe in good anymore. And that's very tragic. And sometimes I can invite those people or influence those people to start looking at the good that they do have. And sometimes people are definitely not ever going to be open to that. So the beginnings of goodness I had a dream, kind of a vision dream, probably when I was about, I don't know, I think 5 or 6 years old. And one of those dreams, it's just in your mind so that you never forget it. And the dream was in our farmhouse that we lived in at that time. And I was outside in the farmyard, and I knew that there was a tiger coming to eat us. And I was very afraid. And I knew that I needed to protect my family. Now that's an indicator of how very young I separated from my family and became extremely independent. And I have various stories of how that happened. I was kept safe and I was loved, but my attachment to people was severed, partly because of my little sister being very sick to the point of death, and the situations around my family, even though they loved and treasured me. So I was independent, and so even at the age of 5 or 6 years old, I wanted to protect my family. I believed in good. And so I was strategizing in this dream what to do to keep the tigers from getting into our house and eating my family. And so my strategy was I got underneath a wash tub, one of those big round galvanized wash tubs, and that's where we had baths because we had no running water or electricity. So I got underneath the wash tub, and I knew the tiger couldn't get me if I was underneath the wash tub. And then I had the sense that the only way really this was going to happen is if I made friends with the tiger. Now, there you go. What a fearless little girl. I didn't need courage. I was in the most visceral, instinctual sense attached to goodness. And that I knew even at that point that when you were good, when you did the good thing, when you did the right thing, the world would respond. And that if I wanted to make friends with the tiger would make friends with me. And so, of course, that's what I did. I got out from under the tub and I went over to the tiger and I made friends with the tiger. So that's a beginning story of how I know that I've been attached to wanting goodness. I think that if we're not really endangered, we maintain that connection with the hope and the desire for goodness. And so with charity, we want to, from the goodness of our heart, from our own goodwill, from our love of life, we want to give. We want to be generous. And so that's my first story of generosity, where I knew if I made friends with the tiger, I could protect my family and therefore be charitable. Not that I had that language then, but I would be charitable by giving good to my family, my mom and dad and my brother and sister. So I believe that each person listening to this has a memory, near or far, of the time when you felt generous, when you felt wanting to do the right thing, wanting to be good, wanting to serve, wanting to take care of, wanting to somehow or another reach out with your goodwill and give. So this is the foundation underneath of the lifelong desire and passion for our mission in life, our calling, what it is that we came here to serve, how to serve, who and what to serve. So this sense of using our abilities, our intentions, that which we have. Know thyself. Once I know myself, and I treasure life because I treasure goodness, and the planet Earth illustrates goodness for us every moment of time, then to love others, I want to do something. Yes, I want to say things, but I want to do something. So charity is taking action. It's a calling. It's a mission. How do I go the extra mile? How do I serve? How do I volunteer? How do I sponsor? Oh, you know what I sponsor right now? I'm a nut for sled dogs. And right now I am the sponsor of a darling sled dog in Alaska, and her name is Ursa. She's a lovely little, not a very old sled dog, an up-and-comer and a little spitfire. So that's one of the ways I sponsor in the world. I volunteer to care for a sled dog. For a decade, I volunteered to care for the Voices of Change organization in Dallas, which is the chamber music ensemble in Dallas that plays music of living composers. It's a rare organization and a small, rare audience. And I was so devoted to that because I wanted to contribute something rare to Dallas, to keep that going and alive for as long as I could. And I did that for a decade. And then it was time to come back to my work. Because that's Jack's world, classical music. So aid, we want to serve and give aid. Sometimes it's an institution like I did for Voices of Change. Sometimes it's a cause, which is an endless amount of things that are meaningful in life and on the planet. And goodness knows, nowadays we can connect with any meaningful cause on any continent. And so each of us picks the one that's bonded to our heart, where what we can do. Sometimes it's not much financially, sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's only a little piece of our talent, but it's enough to make a difference, where we know that our talents are serving something that we find meaningful. The last thing that I think of in terms of charity, I have a hobby. Maybe sometimes it's an art form. It's my favorite art form, my favorite hobby. And it comes under the heading of something that was actually originally started in Dallas, where people were advocating that we commit random acts of kindness and senseless beauty. I loved that. I was around when it first started. I'll never forget one of the random acts of kindness. Jack and I were on our way to the symphony, and we were at a bookstore getting a gift for someone. And there was a lady that passed me in the aisle, and I was wearing a light summer shawl, and she stopped and commented on how beautiful it was. And that was lovely. I thanked her. And then when we were in the checkout lines next to each other, I thought, oh, random act of kindness. And so before we left, I took the shawl off and I put it around her shoulders. She was floored. She refused, and I wouldn't let her. And I had a smile on my face for the rest of the day. And of course, every time I remember it, because I loved that I had something beautiful that I could give as a random act of kindness. So that's a gift. It's a symbol. It's a talisman sometimes a representation of generosity and human love. So when's the last time you committed a random act of kindness and senseless beauty? Notice the beauty. We sometimes forget that charity means beauty. and that it is one of the great universal needs of the human soul, which is why I always want to make my handouts beautiful. So my favorite hobby is gift giving, and I go nuts when weddings happen because I will choose 7 small symbolic objects of the 7 elements of the marriage relationship. I will wrap each one individually and put the paragraph describing that part of marriage. Of course, one is love, another one is romance, another one is pleasure, another one is God's goodwill for abundance for all of us. At any rate, a symbolic gift. If you want to know about that, I know that I did do a page on my website describing it. Of course, I take photographs of them because every one is an experience of reverence for me. To love others, that is one way. As a depth psychologist, therapist, I can use my knowledge and the passion I have for archetypes and symbols and tokens to say, I love you. Whether it's a marriage where I don't know them very well, or people in my close family. It's a random act of kindness and senseless beauty that is a surprise. And notice when we decide to make something or organize something for a loved one or for an honored one, how we always go the extra mile. And many times, most of the people involved are not recompensed. They aren't looking for payback. They are full of the utter joy of charity. Now, charity sounds like an old-fashioned word, but that's what that is. Like when it's like, oh, let's do something and surprise mom, or for Mother's Day, or ooh, let's do something and surprise big sister when she graduates. And then everybody gets together and they're so excited and they're so immersed in what we call charity, the expression, the action of giving love to others. So there's a little quiz here for you to check in just as I close. Self-evaluation. Charity arises from feelings of kinship and love. Charity is acting in consideration for the welfare of others to the extent of giving of ourselves. It is wholehearted compassion for the pain others may suffer in the process of growth. Charity transforms critical attitudes to caring acceptance of self and others. It offers forgiveness. It embraces and expresses goodwill, appreciation, respect, and generosity. It inspires us for friendship and sponsorship. Charity is giving to others with love. So, I refrain from critical thoughts and words about others. How much? I recognize that we may falter when trying new things. I offer merciful assistance when appropriate. Don't do for others what they can do for themselves, but offer assistance when it's welcome and it would help. When I see someone struggling, I feel compassion and try to help, which means I'm being charitable. In whatever way, whether it's an internal way or an emotional way, or tone of voice, or an object, helping somebody move their sofa down the stairs. I can see the good in others, especially those whom I criticize. So, can we flip that around? When we find ourselves criticizing somebody, can we flip it around and become charitable? So I found this wonderful quote. When I teach the virtues, I have quite a large binder of handouts that I use. And this is one of the quotes that I use in teaching charity. And this is Betty Claire Moffat from her book Soul Work. Give to others. Give to yourself, give to the environment, give to your families, give to your friends, give to your work, your time, your energy, and whatever support seems to be called for. Never be afraid to give. What you give comes back to you tenfold. And if by chance you do not feel this in your life and soul at this time, do it anyway. Watch the results. Yes, sometimes we go the extra mile and it doesn't come back. And sometimes we go the extra mile too far. You know, the people who won't let you give back to them. But whatever it is, if we do it in goodwill and in charitable consciousness, we're also giving the experience to ourselves of being a loving person. And so then, know yourself, treasure life, and love others.